Influence of underwater volcanoes on climate change has been investigated during a recent study. Edward Baker is a scientist at the Joint Institute for the Study of Atmosphere and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. He says, "We don't usually think of eruptions as being affected by very small changes, astronomical changes and sea levels rising and falling, and the Earth spinning around the Sun at different distances. It's another way of understanding how the Earth works." Baker goes on to say, "It's important to keep in mind that, even on a 1,000-year timescale, human emissions of CO2 will continue to dominate climate change. That is, we cannot blame seafloor eruptions for the ongoing increase in atmospheric and oceanic CO2 concentrations." Paul Asimow is a professor of geology at the California Institute of Technology. He discusses how the study can be compared with data from older studies. He says, "Both of these data sets have found a signal which is consistent with climate forcing of variations at mid-ocean ridges." Study co-author Richard Katz says, "When ice sheets melt and sea level goes up, it has an effect on volcanoes under the sea. In a broad sense, this reinforces the idea that the climate system and the solid Earth are connected and, in fact, may be thought of as a single system. Not only do ice ages affect volcanism, but volcanism has a feedback effect on climate itself. We haven't proved that yet, but it's a tantalizing possibility." Study author, Maya Tolstoy from the Columbia University's Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, says, "People have ignored seafloor volcanoes on the idea that their influence is small, but that's because they are assumed to be in a steady state, which they're not. This study may have a long-term feedback into our whole climate system. If we are going to protect Earth, we have to understand how the planet functions as a whole."